low effort Frankenstein review.
Low effort movie reviews.
This is Guillermo del Toro's newest movie, Frankenstein, that's on Netflix. So since anybody could watch it, let's talk about it. I will do non-spoilers in the beginning, spoilers at the end like I always do. I will also give you my objective opinion, and then I'll give you my biased feeling about the movie because they are two different things. Casting is great. Everyone does a great job. Oscar Isaac plays Victor Frankenstein. He does incredible the entire movie. Mia Goth plays Elizabeth, but also plays Victor Frankenstein's mom. She does a great job at that. I do have some nitpicks for her character once we get into spoilers. Prometheus from the movie Prometheus plays the creature. Valdo from Soul Calibur plays the creature. Machine Gun Kelly from Cleveland plays the creature. Jacob Elordi plays the creature, and this is one of my biggest nitpicks is I really just don't like the design of the creature. However, Jacob Elordi does a good job, but I do see a lot of people saying that he's gonna win an Oscar for this. So incredible, his acting is amazing, and I'm not saying that he didn't do a good job. I relate this movie to Nosferatu because they're both older period pieces, iconic characters from a long time ago. Someone like a Bill Skarsgård, who played Nosferatu in a really interesting way, did a better job than Jacob did on the creature. I just don't think that his performance was as amazing as everyone else does. His performance, however, did not take me out of the movie. He did a good job. I just don't see what the hype's about. That's it. Getting into the things that I really liked about the movie and can also relate back to Nosferatu is I think the cinematography is absolutely amazing. There's scenes in here where you're like, damn, I want to walk around in that room. That looks awesome. The writing is incredible, albeit the movie is very long and slow in my opinion, but it is really well done. Characters are fleshed out. You really appreciate them. Outside of Elizabeth, Mia Goth's character, her love interests are a little bit rushed. My biggest issue with this movie is I do feel like it has a pacing issue, but I think most people won't feel that way if they're interested in a slow burn movie. I will explain more about that in the spoiler portion, but without spoiling anything, the movie starts off really strong and then slows down quite a bit and continues to slow down for a while. If I look at it objectively and not just my opinion, I think it's a very good movie. I think it's going to be in the top 10 for a lot of people for the year. It has a beautiful story. There's a nice resolution. All in all, definitely worth it to watch. Yes, it's 2.5 hours. Not everyone wants to sit through 2.5 hours. It's so widely available with it being on Netflix. There's not a good excuse to not watch it if you like movies or if you wanted to see it at all. And that's the end of spoiler free. My issue with Mia Goth's character is Elizabeth just falls in love with anyone she sees. Elizabeth is in love with Victor Frankenstein's brother. She meets him and then immediately seems smitten on him. They hang out. They kind of have this weird love interest thing. And the second she meets the creature, it also seems like for some reason she's in love with the creature. I don't like that she was written in a way that just made her love everyone all the time. Like she was just always having a wandering eye. I thought it was kind of weird. The way that they made Frankenstein so brutal in the beginning was great. I loved that they did that. It drew me into the movie so much right at the beginning, and then they took me out of it immediately. They give me Oscar's story and they bring us back to the boat again, and then they give us the creature story and then they bring us back to the boat again. I understand that that is the narrative and the way that they tell the story. I get that. I wish they would have pieced it in a way that maybe they just showed me what Frankenstein looked like and didn't show me how brutal and an amazing horror character he could be, and then take me out of it so fast because the pacing just felt bad. When showing him in the beginning, he's so brutal, then they go, Victor's story. Victor's story is obviously very important. It's the birth of Frankenstein and why he's doing what he's doing. Then they show you the boat again. There's not too much going on. And then they show you the creature story that is super, super slow. And then they go back to the boat again for the resolution. In my opinion, had they just showed me Oscar's story, then showed that fighting scene of how amazingly strong he is, then the creature story, then the boat again for the resolution, maybe I would have felt slightly different about it. It would make it more challenging to write the story. You'd have to rewrite it in a lot of ways. That was my biggest issue with the movie, was pacing. It feels like it just slows down to a halt, and when you're doing it at 2.5 hours, that is a long time to watch a movie and feel like it's moving slow. The interesting thing about Frankenstein as a whole, the story, is that it's always been about who is the real monster. Is it the monster, or is it the person that created the monster that never wanted to be there? In the movie, they literally say, Oscar, you're the monster. So it kind of just puts it on its nose. The creature makes a point to say, I never asked to be here and I can't die. So he's trying to get him to make him a partner because he can't die and he never asked to be here, and never asking to be here is relatable. You know what I mean? It's 2025. There's some shit going on. It really humanizes the creature in that way, and humanizing the creature is super important in telling the story of Frankenstein. However, I think a bigger note of this movie is it's talking about the traumas of what happened to Victor Frankenstein brought him there more than just him being a monster. His mother died, and you could boil it down to he went crazy and wanted to beat death and be better than God and create life, which is true, but it's more so because his dad was the best doctor in the world and couldn't beat death, or didn't want to, depending on your perception of that. His dad was emotionally and physically abusing him because he was incapable of being perfect as a kid, and he wanted to be more perfect than his dad could ever be. But added an extra depth to the whole like who's a monster thing, because it kind of of shows you why he became a monster. So I understand why people are saying this is their favorite movie of the year, or why they believe this movie is so incredible. And objectively, I do agree it is an incredible movie, but biasly now, I don't like period pieces. I never have. It's just who I am. So I already kind of have that dislike for movies like this. I do think this one was more interesting than most, so I will give it that, and I will say that it was better than most, for me at least. I think the biggest thing holding me back from loving this movie is I saw how interesting this movie could be right at the beginning when they were showing
The creature
really being a monster, and they didn't explore that part of it so much. They did so much of this movie humanizing him and doing the normal metaphor that they didn't really show how crazy and strong he could be for a very long amount of time. It would have made the movie more interesting, in my opinion. Could have shown more of the chase between the creature and Victor Frankenstein, and showed more of those things in between us figuring out how we got there. And I think I would have been way more drawn in. The 2.5 hour watch time would have felt a little bit more paid off. I think I would have left the movie thinking, I can't wait to watch it again. I left this movie thinking this was a very good movie, but I will never watch this movie again because it felt so slow. But all in all, personal opinions aside, just looking at it objectively, I understand why everyone loves it. I do think it's a very good movie. Again, I don't think there's an excuse to not watch it if you have any interest in it, considering it's on Netflix. Even if you don't pay for Netflix, you have a friend who does, or can borrow someone's account for a day or whatever, or start a free trial under an email. I don't know. If I were to rate this movie with my objective opinions in it and my what I think are fair critiques, not liking period pieces, but maybe the pacing portion, I would rate this movie a solid B+, maybe even an A, depending on who you are. I just left not liking it as much as everybody else. That's my overall feeling. Frankenstein.
Victor!